It is 6:35, and I call to order the regular meeting of the Victoria City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda tonight is announcements. The council will hold a workshop on Monday, March 28th at 5:30 p.m. to discuss trail gaps in the city. We'll also hold a workshop on Monday, April 11th at 5:30 p.m. to discuss a possible pedestrian crossing at County Road 11 at Deer Run and potential development at the old Public Works site. The council will also meet on Monday, April 18th at 9 a.m. for an all-day workshop to check in on our adopted strategic plan at Charleston Meadows. All meetings of the City Council are open to the public and held in council chambers at City Hall unless otherwise noted. We encourage anyone wanting to attend our council meetings or workshops in person to contact our city clerk in advance. In other announcements, registration is now open for our annual Citizens Academy, which will be held on Wednesday evenings starting in April and the first Wednesday in May. Annually, we invite residents to spend a couple of hours with city staff for 5 weeks for a hands-on, behind-the-scenes look at how the city operates. Check the city's website or contact Communications and Public Engagement Manager Kendra Grawl for more information. We are also taking nominations for our next Community Builder Award. Each year, the Community Builder Program recognizes an individual, group, business, or organization that has, through their outstanding volunteerism or exemplary action, demonstrated an extraordinary commitment to making Victoria a better place today and for the future. Nominations must be received by March 31st, and applications can be found on the city website. I'd also like to take a moment and recognize someone very dear to Victoria. Earlier this month, Roseanne Harker passed away. Roseanne worked at the Victoria Rec Center for 17 years and was an election judge for many years and retired during the COVID-19 pandemic. Many in our community had the good fortune of knowing and interacting with Roseanne at the Rec Center. She touched many lives with her fun and outgoing personality. On behalf of the City Council and city staff, I'd like to express our sincere appreciation for Roseanne's service to her community and our condolences to her husband of 68 years, Richard, and her entire family. The city will be planting a tree at the Rec Center in Roseanne's honor later this year. We have no proclamations this evening, and our next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. Council, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt agenda.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to our next item, and that is open forum. Open forum is the opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda and not in application form that will be coming to the council at a future date. We've set aside 10 minutes this evening for public comment. We have an individual who has registered to speak in advance, Ms. Sarah Beron. We invite Ms. Beron to step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Ms. Beron, you've addressed the council before. We'll allot 2 minutes for your remarks this evening.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good evening, councilors. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak, and thank you for all you do for the city of Victoria. If you recall, back in October, I came in request for connection for my neighborhood, which is just off of Highway 5 and Lake Auburn. We are extremely secluded. We don't have access because we're kind of surrounded on all sides by the lake and the park with no trails and Highway 5. So I met with the city or the Parks and Rec Committee and kind of went through that process of explaining, how great it would be to have a trail to get there. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. So good news though, because the lot that was for sale back in October, which kind of started this whole thing, and we thought was going to be for sale or going to be sold, is still on the market. That pending sale fell through. So this is an awesome opportunity for our neighborhood and for the city of Victoria to really provide this neighborhood with a neighborhood park. It's centrally located in the middle of the neighborhood, so it's the perfect location. It's a 0.5 acre lot. It's at 2445 Auburn Drive. And, I've kind of crunched a few numbers about, because it's all about cost, right? It's all about like how much it costs. And I've crunched a few numbers with, the 35 or the 33.5 acres that the city bought for the Wasserman Park. And can kind of make those numbers kind of work out if I don't know if I don't think I have time to go into the numbers, but a couple of other things to consider to help offset the cost is, if that neighborhood was developed now, then the developers would have to have put a park in. But instead, there was never a park in that spot. So the city has been kind of reaping tax benefits this whole time. And so I thought that maybe those tax dollars that the city has earned since the 70s could be put back to possibly purchase that land for park use. And we did a petition for the entire neighborhood, and 100% of the people are in favor of this lot being park land. And we are not asking for any amenities beyond, what the city kind of needs to do to make it safe and like an official park. But we love the idea of just a green space there for the kids to play in. And we are committed to making a Friends of Auburn Park group to maintain the property so that no further cost to the city of Victoria would be incurred. So just that kind of purchase price would be the only cost for the city of Victoria.
Thank you, Ms. Beron.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your comments this evening. Welcome back. We're glad you're here. I'm going to ask you to interact with the staff about your request.
Great.
All right?
I would love to.
And then we'll bring that back at a future meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council? Yes, please step forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi there. My name is John McCarthy, address 2492 Woods Drive in the Woods of Wasserman. I'm just here today to give kind of some feedback about that neighborhood specifically and the sound and the noise pollution within that area that currently exists versus the Victoria Acres and what we've heard might potentially exist. So first of all, I do think Victoria Acres looks like a very unique opportunity, a cool business idea. The location of it, the proposed location, I know there isn't any specific land or anything, just the zone that was shown there. It buds up to 5 specific neighborhoods. There's a huge Lennar neighborhood, Woods of Wasserman where I reside, Pulte, and then there's the new neighborhoods that are currently being built, Hunters Brook and the shores of Marsh Lake. So in total, we're close to a couple thousand homes that are either built or currently in the process of being built within that one kind of mile radius of the map that you showed on there. Currently, a hunting club already exists, so we actually do know what it's like to live next to a shooting facility of some kind. The shots are clear as day. You hear them all the time. We weren't aware of them when we bought our property, and it was like something that we learned, and we've asked our neighbors, and same with them. You kind of see it on the map, and you think, oh, maybe that's not going to be an issue. The shots are very clear. I go on Wasserman Lake all the time, ice fishing. I was there 2 days ago. You could hear the shots on the north side of the lake, so we're talking even farther away from there. There are berms already in place to help mitigate the sound. It does not mitigate the sound. And I just wanted to be clear on that we do hear the shots. The reason the shots are pretty livable right now is because they're inconsistent. The hunting reserve uses live birds. Therefore, the shots aren't all the time. It's not clay where you can just shoot it up consistently. And it's, the club operates on kind of a interesting schedule. Busy weekends we'll have shots like every couple minutes you'll be hearing a few shots. So the proposal of Victoria Acres having 28 plus trap shooting stalls, the idea that when a clay goes up, you hear 1 to up to 2 shots per clay. It's extremely unsettling, the idea of that kind of war zone type sound on summer days, on the nice days. That's when they're going to operate, is the same days that we want our families outside. We don't want our kids in the backyard, and we already hear shots. We don't want to hear a lot more shots.
Can I ask you to wrap it up, please?
Yes, sorry about that. So just to focus on things that we do need commercially, we need a grocery store. Everybody can agree we want a grocery store. We want a nice area we don't want to spend our money in Chaska. We don't want to spend it in Waconia. We want to spend our money in Victoria here. So I did just want to share some firsthand experience living next to the hunting club, living in a neighborhood that would be affected by this. This neighborhood has already gone through a lot. As you know, last year's big debacle was a level 3 child sex offender moving into the neighborhood. And now this year just feels like another punch in the gut, having to try to not have the sound of a war zone next to our neighborhood as well. So
thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Do we have anyone else that would like to address the council in the audience? Seeing no one, we'll move on to our next item, which is our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine administrative and do not require deliberation or are housekeeping items required by law. Consent agenda items are approved with 1 vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Hardy, does staff wish to pull any consent agenda items for separate discussion and vote?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Members of the council, does anyone wish to pull any of the items off the consent agenda? Seeing no one, anyone in the audience wishing to pull anything off for a separate discussion and vote? Seeing no one, council, can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda, please?
Motion to adopt consent agenda.
We have a motion. Can I get a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are now moving on to our regular agenda. We have several items on our regular agenda this evening. The first item is 6.1, approve Park and Rec and Senior Advisory Committee appointments for 2022. Assisting us in that process this evening is City Clerk Cindy Patnode.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So earlier in the workshop, you discussed and heard interviews from the Park and Rec and the Senior Committee, and I believe there was some consensus to your vote choices. So today it would be adding those and then having that Senior Advisory Committee have alternate positions.
Terrific. Thank you, Ms. Patnode. Council, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to appoint Jeanette June and Terry Cope to the Park and Recreation Committee for a 3-year term each, beginning April 1st, 2022, and to appoint Ginny Larkin and Curtis Scheibel to the Senior Advisory Committee for a 3-year term each, and then appoint Terry Cope as an alternate to the Senior Advisory Committee, beginning April 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Councilmember Gunderson. We have a motion. Can I get a second? Second. We have a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much and congratulations to our new committee members. Item 6.2 is an update on our fire mezzanine construction project and a request for authorization to go to bid on the project. Presenting this evening is our Fire Chief, Andrew Heger. Chief Heger, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Council. Thank you. Tonight is before you for consideration is authorizing staff and the design team with CNH Architects, and I'll just briefly introduce Quinn Hudson. He's here tonight. Just say hi, please.
Quinn, welcome.
Quinn will be here just to take any questions as far as the design or any detailed questions go. But what we're seeking tonight is council to authorize staff to put this project to public bid. And how that process would work is we would advertise for 21 days beginning March 24th. As part of that, staff would hold a pre-bid walkthrough April 4th, and then ultimately bring a contract back for consideration on April 25th for the council to review and tentatively approve. Just a little history on how we got here. In June of 2019, council had adopted a 2-year strategic plan, and one of the items in that plan was a long-term facility plan. As part of that, in January of 2020, staff engaged the services of Wold Architects and Engineers to conduct a space needs assessment for all of our city facilities. And as part of that, they looked at all of our current facilities and how they could grow and support the ever-changing staffing needs and the growth of the city. And in November of 2021, Council adopted that final space needs assessment. And within that assessment, there was several items, short-term, mid-term, long-term plans to move throughout the facilities. The first one that we're bringing forth now is the build-out of the fire station mezzanine level. And that level was built in 2005, 2006 as part of the water treatment plant addition. However, it was never really finished. So it was just kind of a shell space and was really underutilized. So one of the very early recommendations was to take that space and utilize it better for city staffing needs. So what that space will allow us to do is delay some future projects as far as standing up future facilities for staffing needs. It'll be a shared space between fire, public works, some of our contract positions, and allow some future staffing needs to grow as well. So as part of that, staff engaged the services of CNH Architects in January of 2022. Since then, CNH and staff have been working on putting preliminary design together for the project, and then have gotten to basically to the point where we're at now, where we've got a finished product ready to put out for public bid. So on the screen here, you can just see a brief overview or floor plan of what we would be looking at as far as the renovation would go. So the existing community room that's on the lower level of the fire station water treatment plant would get renovated and become a workout facility, which is currently upstairs today in that space, so that would get relocated. This we found was the best way to utilize that space because it's rather disconnected from the water treatment plant and the fire station. So we felt moving this down there would be best. And then building out that upper level, we've got 2 permanent office spaces with the opportunity to add a third additional space that will currently be storage but can be converted to a future office. And then about 6 cubicles can be added in there for staffing positions, and then a conference training room as well. So again, this will really allow us to grow as far as staffing needs come aboard, and we've got room to expand our needs through that as well. So CNH did some work on estimated project budget, and total project hard costs is about $468,000. That is higher than the number that was projected in the space needs assessment that was adopted in November by about $100,000. But I would add that we are touching a lot more space as part of this project. So that number that was put together last year was based on about 1,900 square feet of project space. We found some opportunities to really utilize all of the space up there, and this is coming in at about 3,800 square feet. In addition, since October of last year, when that number was put together, there's been many changes in the construction industry and material challenges, supply chain challenges, staffing needs as well. So those are going to play into some of this as well. So again, estimate from the architecture group is $468,857 for hard construction costs. Just quickly looking at, again, what the proposal was last year as part of the space needs assessment. This was about $370,000, but again, it was based on 1,900 square feet of project area. So the design that's presented by the CNH team really utilizes that space much better. It allows some additional office space and provides some break room and some additional storage space as well that wasn't included in this proposal. So with that, I will take any questions, or if you've got any detailed questions, Quinn would be happy to answer those as well.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Councilmember Black, please.
I just want to know if we can use any of the ARPA funds on this.
Ms. Hardy.
Thank you, Councilmember Black, Mayor, members of the council. While we haven't explored that in its entirety, that certainly may be an option because of how the space will be utilized with its direct connection to the water infrastructure and related security improvements.
Okay. Council, other questions? Councilmember Roberts.
You know, so I know you said more square footage now that we're dealing with, even though the price is going up. The $123.77 cost per square foot, do you know what the old cost per square foot was?
Yes, Mayor, member of the council. The estimated cost in that space needs assessment was $195 per square foot. So or actually less
Yes.
per square foot, but again, we're touching more space.
Yep.
Almost doubling what we were originally planning on, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Councilmember Roberts, anything else? Any other questions?
What
Councilmember
happens?
Hebert.
What happens if we stay status quo?
If we say what?
If we don't do this? What happens?
Oh,
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, I guess a couple of things. You know, if we did delay the project, it's inevitable costs are going to continue to rise. So even if we were going to delay it by a year and put it out next year, we know costs are going to continue to go up. So that is one thing that would happen. The other thing is we're at capacity on all of our city facilities today. So without this, it would prohibit adding future staffing positions next year. And that's across the entire city organization. So
that we need.
Good. Other questions? Council? All right. With that, I would consider a motion.
Motion to authorize solicitation of construction bids for the fire station mezzanine build-out.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can I also add that I would also like staff to explore the possibility of using ARPA funds to help pay for this? We'll consider that a friendly amendment to the motion.
For the ARPA grant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
thank you.
We'll look forward to hearing how those bids come back. Next on our agenda is a review of our special vehicles ordinance using golf carts, ATVs, UTVs, and snowmobiles in the city. Presenting this evening is our Community and Economic Development Director, Mr. Marty Dahl.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, as you'll recall, a little bit of background. In fall 2020, the Carver County Sheriff's Office had requested that cities within the county review and clarify their ordinances related to special vehicles. Those include ATVs, UTVs, golf carts, snowmobiles, and the like. So in January of 2021, the council directed staff to draft ordinance language that would allow those golf carts, ATVs, and snowmobiles on designated city streets. And in June of last year, the council adopted that ordinance with a clause that the ordinance would sunset as of March 31st of this year, 2022, in order to provide an opportunity to bring this back before the council for discussion. Just a little refresher, the ordinance that is currently in place, it does allow for application for a permit to drive golf carts and ATVs on designated city streets. Those streets are all streets excluding CBD, roads over 30 miles an hour, and county and state highways. So you can see on the map to your right the red streets that are prohibited. Otherwise, all streets within the city do allow these types of vehicles. Permits are available to those 18 or older. Those permits must be displayed at all times, and they may be revoked for violations. And then you'll recall we had some extensive discussion related to the safety and operating conditions that are in place for those types of vehicles as well. So just how it's been going the last 10 months or so. So we did see a modest uptick in permits. In 2021, there were 10 ATV permits that were issued and 26 golf cart permits. So that brought it to 36 total. As comparison, over the past couple of years, when golf carts were only allowed on streets adjacent to or connected to Deer Run Golf Course, you can see we were in the same range. Again, just golf carts, but 26 in 2020, 33 in 2019. 21 in 2018 and 2017 had 19. So there was a small uptick, but nothing too crazy with the number of permits that were issued last year. And then I know one of the other items we were tasked with kind of keeping tabs on were complaints and issues. So since that implementation of that revised ordinance, the city itself has only received one formal complaint. This was related to safety concerns of golf carts near schools being operated by some folks around the school. And that was last early fall, I believe, when that came in. And then we did also reach out to the Carver County Sheriff's Office just to get their thoughts on if they've seen any sort of increase in complaints or major issues, and they've noted that they really haven't, and that their primary complaints continue to be operation of these types of golf carts and things by juveniles, which is not allowed under your ordinance, so is in violation. So with that, the council does have a few different options for next steps related to this ordinance. The first would be to just allow the ordinance to expire on March 31st. If that sunset clause does come into place, then no golf carts, ATVs, or snowmobiles would be allowed on any city streets. The council may also direct staff to provide an ordinance amendment that would remove that sunset clause and essentially just keep the ordinance in place as it is. Or again, the council could direct staff to provide some other ordinance amendments or to designate just specific streets versus the majority of streets that are allowed now. So if staff's direction is to bring an ordinance amendment forward in one of those options, we would plan to bring that forward at the March 28th meeting before the sunset clause. So with that, Mayor, I will turn it over for questions or discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. Questions, council?
I guess my only question would be if we wanted to keep it, but we wanted it kind of always in the back of our mind, could we continue to say for a year again and see how it keeps going, or get more data, obviously, or is that not an option? Is it at this point, do we need to?
I mean, and I defer to Attorney Vos, but I believe you'd be able to add a new sunset clause date to it if you so choose. Operationally, that and administratively, that creates another layer of just someone needs to make sure they keep on top of it, and if something happens and it's all of a sudden not on the books. But if it is something that the council wants to be reviewed annually, I think that could also be done just administratively as well. To have a tickler on the calendar to say, let's do a check-in, or at the council's all-day annual work session may be a good opportunity to do that and just see how things are going. Because the council does always have the ability to repeal if they would choose to.
Attorney Vos, do you have anything to
Mayor,
add to
council,
that?
I agree with all that.
All right, terrific, thank you. Councilmember Black?
One of the reasons we did the sunset was because we wanted to see how it would affect the way it was being used, and I think we're showing that it's fine. I'm okay with dropping the sunset and just having it as an ordinance. If in the future at some point people get out of hand, we can always pull it back.
Right. Councilmember Gunderson?
Yeah, I mean, I'll own it. I'm the one that made us come back here again. It's not me. I'm the one that said, let's do the sunset because I want to see how it goes. And it's not to knock anybody sitting at this dais at all. My question was along the lines of what Councilman Roberts asked but it was a little bit different. Can we, instead of coming back to revisit it every year, can we add a certain level of number of incidents? So if we get to, let's say we get to like 20 in a year, where people are reporting and saying, we're having all these problems. Is that significant enough to come back before us to do it? If it doesn't get to that threshold, I understand there's going to be people calling and complaining about maybe they got stuck behind one or kids driving it in their yard, and those are things outside of our control. My reason for this is safety and the safety of kids and our neighborhoods, and avoiding traffic accidents and potential death, because if you're using these incorrectly, there's a potential for death. So if we set it at a certain level, then it triggers just to come back before us, and we can get the numbers and the style of complaints. If it's below that in a year, good, and then every year it resets to 0 and we start all over again, which doesn't waste staff time, doesn't waste our time, and keeps people happy because apparently they like it. So, I mean, that's.
Ms. Hardy?
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Attorney Vos, please.
Mayor and Council, originally, Councilmember, I thought you were started down the road of saying if we got to a certain threshold, could we cause that to automatically cause the revocation of the ordinance that allows it? And I think the answer to that is no. That wouldn't be a good idea because you wouldn't be giving notice to the public then that had occurred. And so but that's not the direction you were going at all. What you're saying, I think, is just if the council goes forward, allows this to remain on the books, get rid of the sunset clause, but then also give direction to staff to monitor closely the amount of complaints that are coming in and bring it back to your attention as soon as you reach a certain threshold, that's totally appropriate. So that's fine.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking, because I think every year we could do sunsets every year, and it would just, I don't want to waste staff time with that.
All right, Ms. Hardy, yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Gunderson, and members of the council. If it's your pleasure, we do have a mechanism in place that would allow us to do that quite easily. And through our strategic planning dashboard, we've got benchmarks and measurement data that we can do. And I would just recommend that be one of the things we report on annually to you.
Terrific, thank you.
Just one other
Councilmember
thing, kind of in addition to what Councilman Gunnarsson was saying. Are we interested at all in terms of the density of ATVs and golf carts? So if we get above a certain number, right? I assume it would be directly correlated with incidences. So I don't know if we want to entertain that, but something I thought of. If we get 100 new applicants, and is there a number that's too many for our little city? I don't know the answer. I just want to put it out there.
Yeah, I think my thinking on it is, if this becomes a problem, staff will bring it to us. We will probably be made aware that this is a problem. There's a lot more new permits, and it's causing all kinds of angst. So I think at this point in time, we're safe to remove the sunset clause and just have staff keep an eye on it. I would assume that any ordinance that we have in place, if it becomes problematic, council will know about it. Yeah. All right. Council, any other questions? All right. With that, I will entertain a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to approve the current ordinance.
Mayor, members of the council, we don't actually need any specific action at this point in time. We will bring the ordinance revision to you at your next meeting. So if the direction is to draft ordinance language that removes the sunset clause, which it looks like it is, that we'll do that, and we'll bring it to your next meeting on the 28th.
Fantastic. All right. Everybody's in agreement on that, it looks like? Perfect. Thank you. Item 6.4 is to consider a preliminary development agreement with Monarch Development Partners for a possible redevelopment project in downtown Victoria. Presenting this evening, again, Mr. Dahl, you're the star of the show tonight. Welcome back.
Mayor, members of the council, are you sick of listening to me? So yes, before you this evening is consideration of a preliminary development agreement for a possible downtown redevelopment with Monarch Development Partners. Mr. Carl Runk with Monarch is in the audience this evening, so if you have any questions or anything for him at the conclusion of this brief presentation, I'm sure he would be happy to answer those as well. What is being explored is a proposed mixed-use development project downtown on private property at 7492 Quamaclit, more commonly known as the Gannon Building, and 7928 Quamaclit, which is the city parking lot adjacent to it. What would be looked at would be a 60 to 80 unit, market rate multifamily apartment of 4 to 5 stories with amenities and private residential parking, up to 6,000 square feet of commercial shell spaces, and then possible structured public parking of approximately 50 to 75 spaces. So just to kind of visualize the parcels we are talking about here, parcel A is the city parking lot, and parcel B is the Gannon Building in downtown. So what is before you this evening is a preliminary development agreement. So just a few of the highlights of what this agreement does and does not do. So essentially, if the council were to approve this agreement, it memorializes that the developer and city will continue to cooperate on further planning and evaluation of the project's feasibility. It requires that a formal development plan be provided within 90 days, which would include a site plan, staging plan, schedule, financial analysis, and all other information necessary for the city to determine if financial assistance is available. It does note that the city will not enter into any other agreements for that parking lot or sell or solicit proposals for that parking lot property during this contract negotiation period. It would require the developer to pay up to $5,000 in the city's administrative legal engineering costs as part of this initial exploration process, as well as cover city's costs for surveying and any TIF analysis that would be completed. It does provide the ability for either party to terminate the agreement upon 15 days written notice. It does acknowledge, it does not approve, but it acknowledges that the developer will be asking to negotiate financial assistance and propose that that city-owned lot will be sold to the developer for $1 with the intention that public parking would then be turned back over to the city. And then again, it acknowledges that this agreement creates no obligation for the city to ultimately sell the property, approve a project, provide financial assistance, and that all of the formal land conveyance, public engagement, development review, planning, and city council processes would need to be followed if and when a formal process came forward. So with that, Mayor, members of the council, I'll open it up to any questions. And as I mentioned, Mr. Runk is here as well.
Perfect, thank you. Council, questions? Mr. Beron.
Help me understand the public parking turned back to the city if they put condos over it. What does that parking look like, and how many today versus what tomorrow might look like?
Yeah, Mayor, and I may, at your prerogative, I may ask if Mr. Runk can speak to this a little bit, but ultimately there are, I believe there's 40-some spaces in that surface lot today, and the idea would be to enhance that, increase that, by a number yet to be determined, but to increase the number of total parking. But maybe Mr. Runk can speak to how that would all look.
Yes,
Mr. Runk, welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Good to see you. We haven't started designing the project. If this is approved, we intend to engage an architect and start designing the project to show how much parking we could expand here. We know that's a need. I live nearby in Cheval myself, and there's a need for more parking here. And that our idea would be to expand on what's there today. I believe there's 46 stalls on the surface, and we would expand it through structured parking. And the counts are to be determined based on a design we come up with. And the idea is also, as Marty said, to convey it back to the city at that point upon completion.
Thank you. Councilmember Black.
This says structured parking with 50 to 75 spaces. That wouldn't be very many extra spots from what we have.
We need to design the project, and we want to work with the city in terms of how much parking, how much should we aim for with the design. Because we have two sites. We don't have it designed yet. We need to design it. I, based on a Google Earth sketch myself, came up with that many stalls to expand on what's there today. I certainly think if we did 2 levels of parking, there's more than 46. Today it's 46. We include Rich Gannon's property, which he has in agreement with us. It's going to be more than currently is there today. So we need to come back to you with a development plan that shows an expansion of parking and how much we expand. We want to work together with you and the staff on what that looks like.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Black, anything else?
And then the commercial 6,000 square feet, is that still just an idea?
That is a commitment we're making with Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon's current building would go away. We'd replace it with 6,000 square feet approximately of space, of commercial shelf space. And instead of being a blank wall like it is today with trees overgrowing, it'd be commercial type space with glass in front or glass doors that we need to work through in a design.
All right. Is that for him?
That's be conveyed to Rich Gannon. And long term, he's not decided what he's doing with the space, if he'll make it retail or other uses. So to be determined.
Okay, because we would have to decide about the parking on that as well.
The parking would, there's currently no parking with his building. There's just the driveway. And whether or not we allocate stalls for public parking, for residents, which would be for the apartment component above, and then for Rich Gannon's space, we need to determine that. We haven't yet. Okay. We're here early without an actual design to present to you.
Okay.
We understand,
Yeah,
Mr. Bell.
Councilmember Black, Mayor, members of the council, we would certainly look at that space, and the parking requirements are based on square footage for commercial downtown. So as a development plan is being produced, we'd be looking at, okay, this many square feet yields, we should have this many parking spaces for the commercial versus this many for the residential. What does that leave us? How many public? So I think that would be the idea, is we'd continue to work towards trying to find a good solution for that.
Terrific. Councilmember Black, anything else?
No, I'll wait.
All right, any other questions?
The business owners to the north of this proposal, what's their feeling? How do they feel? I think early conversations, whisperings and things like that, thought maybe this would incorporate that entire space from Tower Boulevard down to Steiger. Is that still something that's in discussion, or is it conversations, or is that not realistic anymore? Just in terms of this, is that?
Mr. Councilmember Gunderson, Mayor, members of the council, I think we're reacting to the proposal that's before us, that is for the Gannon building and the city parking lot. So I can't speak or say that I've had any specific conversations with those other property owners. So I would defer that question again to Mr. Runk if he's got any additional context to add to that.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, we don't have an agreement to purchase Victoria House or Vic's Bar. We've talked to Victoria House owner. We haven't have an agreement to purchase it, redevelop. We do have an agreement with Rich Gannon to purchase his property and redevelop it.
Our conversations ongoing with those business owners, and the only reason I'm asking these questions is because if we're going to redevelop that area, it makes sense to do it all at once versus your building once you do it and then have this older section that all of a sudden they want to do something, and then we're trying to shoehorn things in that may or may not exacerbate a parking problem that our businesses already think exists, even with additional parking spots, with additional development. So I just want to make sure we're exhausting all avenues for a concept, and before we make any decisions in terms of what we're doing. And I love and commend, excuse me, your efforts. Sorry, total slip of the words. Commend the project that you've got here, and I do appreciate that it's coming before us. I just want to, like you said, make sure we're having those conversations with everybody, so that we have what's best not only for you and Mr. Gannon and the other business, but also the other businesses out of there, and ultimately residents in Victoria, because the goal of that is to hopefully over time increase tax value so that it decreases pressure on our homeowners, which we talk about a lot. So
on that front, the mayor has recommended talking to business owners, which we've started doing. Beyond, Victoria House owners, Vic's Bar we've not met with yet, but the Noble Line owner we've met with, and we'll continue to meet with other business owners, knowing that this is a really important lot as far as the city ownership of that, and making sure it's designed right in terms of capacity and service for future demand. Victoria's only going to grow, as everyone knows, in terms of the need for parking here and density.
Thank you, Mr. Runk. Councilmember Roberts.
I just have one. So obviously, knowing that you don't have anything designed yet, obviously the added spaces will be great for downtown. Just making sure we have a good plan for when the build starts, because wondering where all those cars that normally park in those lots and go to those restaurants and bars down there are going to go when that's taking place. So making sure we have a good plan so they have somewhere to go.
Yeah, we'll consider that feedback when we come back to you with a plan as far as staging and timing.
Great. Okay. Anything else? All right. With that, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve preliminary development agreement with Monarch Development Partners, LLC for possible downtown redevelopment.
Wonderful. We got a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. We'll look forward to seeing you, Mr. Runk. Yes.
Are we able to ask questions or just give feedback?
On this proposal? Or just in an open forum? Or I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
My neighbor had a good thought about the car show parking.
Oh, certainly. Please approach.
Likes how he sends you up there.
It was a great thought.
Please state your name for the record. Thank you. And
Alex
address.
Flash.
I'm sorry. Start again. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Alex Flash, 9608 Timber Terrace. We moved here a year ago now from Richfield. My neighbor, we live in the Laketown neighborhood, and he had a good thought that parking lot's specifically used for the car show, which you all know is an iconic event in the summers. So I would hope that if there were a covered garage, that it would that first level wouldn't lose any of the the car shine on these the wax jobs. Just thinking of that detail about something is important.
He's nodding his head back there. So yeah.
Mr. Runk? Yeah, please.
Yeah. Mayor, members of the council, So the first thing Rich Gannon talked about at his property and redeveloping is that car show. And he lives here 6 months a year, but is very proud of it. And he wants to be involved with the design of this project. And so on the car show question, we'll try to accommodate what we can on that front in terms of preserving cars, and knowing that's an important event that he wants to see continue to grow in popularity in this city. So
Terrific, thank you. All right. I've lost track. We're all done here, aren't we? Okay, thank you. There are no more items to come before for the council this evening, so we will move on to reports and emerging issues. Attorney Vos, any reports from you?
Do not. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Hardy, anything from staff?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Members of the council, anything to report?
No, happy Pi Day.
Happy Pi Day. All right. Seeing nothing, there are no more items to come before the body. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.